So we've reached the final night of episodes for the Netflix horror anthology, Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. These are vastly different on the genre spectrum, but they come from two wonderful and creative directors. So have you been watching along each night, or have you been waiting for today when you can binge all 8 episodes together? Either way, let's get into these. First up is episode 7, The Viewing, and it's from director Panos Cosmatos. Now, if you're unfamiliar with him, he directed that crazy fever dream Nicolas Cage movie, Mandy. That was strange, and he continues with the strangeness in this one. This has got a great cast of characters with Peter Weller, Sofia Boutella, Charlene Yee, Eric Andre, Steve Agee, Saad Siddiqui, and Michael Theroux. Now, a wealthy recluse hosts 4 accomplished guests at his stylish mansion for a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but their intrigue soon turns to horror. The guests are very eclectic, and the setting is somewhere in the early to mid-80s. And right from the start, this has a bizarre air to it, where directions are given cryptically to the guests. When they arrive at the mansion of Peter Weller, they're taken through this crazy-looking pathway that's got to be like 5 or 6 stories tall, and it's covered with vegetation. And then they're led into this circular room with a sunken couch, and the room has an ominous orange hue to it. I love the dialogue exchanges between all the characters. Because they're a bit eccentric, some have the attitude to go with it. They're snarky, outspoken, but almost all of the conversations feel like they're a stream of consciousness, as conversations just bounce around from person to person. But when Peter Weller and Sofia Boutella arrive in the room, that's when the dialogue and the atmosphere become even stranger. Weller plays the rich host, and he's vague at times, almost philosophically high. And high also. But he also provides elements for the group to expand their consciousness, and he drills into them with deep and sometimes personal questions. Now, as I was watching this, I was really trying to figure out exactly what the heck was going on and why this extended and uncomfortable scene was continuing for so long. And this does a great job of breaking us down and almost subduing us with the awkwardness. But then that's really when the real fun begins. As the scene transitions, there are some funny moments that just made me chuckle simply because of how situational they were, especially given all of the time that we've just spent with the characters getting to know their habits, quirks, and even their dreams. Now, the payoff for this episode, it's wonderful. I mean, it's not really scary, but there is a bit of suspense and even tension as the guests actually get to go to the viewing. I mean, the whole reason that they were invited in the first place. There are some creative special effects that look amazing, but they're also pretty disgusting, showcasing a great deal of gore. Now, this episode is just under an hour, but it makes good use of the time to create an intriguing and compelling story that hooked me in simply because of the bizarre nature of all the conversations. I mean, the actors do a great job of giving their characters a lot of personality, and then even when some might be rude or brash, they still don't come across as ones we hate. I mean, I think some of that is just because of the humor that they provide. If you like Mandy, or even something like The Void or Color Out of Space, you're probably going to enjoy this one too, as it melds horror with extraordinary oddness. There's no sex or nudity, a ton of profanity, and a lot of violence. Alright, so the final episode in this anthology is called The Murmuring, and it's directed by Jennifer Kent. Now, she's the one who brought us The Babadook, and that movie, it is still one of the only ones to bother me to my soul. Kent teams up again with Essie Davis, who was also in The Babadook, and then Andrew Lincoln. So, mourning a major loss, ornithologists Nancy and Edgar, they flock to a secluded home to study birds, but the house's history reveals heartbreak and horror. This isn't the story I thought it was going to be. I mean, it is way more emotional and heartfelt, but still retains very creepy imagery and setups. As Nancy and Edgar go out to this isolated home on an island to study birds, we get huge insight into their relationship, and then slowly understand why there's this massive amount of grief that seems to be hanging over them. All the interactions feel a bit strained, but the story slowly unveils this for us. And as the couple's dealing with their own issues, Nancy then begins to see and hear things that set her teeth on edge. And they also stir up terrible memories and emotions for her, so it's really haunting on 2 fronts. I enjoyed the mysterious aspect of what could be going on within the house. I mean, I was never quite sure if Nancy is just seeing things that were manifested by her grief, meaning they're only illusions as her mind tries to reconcile her feelings, or if the things she sees and hears are actually being seen and heard by her. I mean, if they are, it's time to go. Jennifer Kent expertly creates this emotionally raw tale. She's able to infuse sadness, terror, and character tensions in a way that feels seamless and natural. And the haunting elements feel just as at home in this story as the grief, and then those are awesomely conveyed by Davis and Lincoln. There's a breaking point in this story, and when that climax comes, it's just a wave of emotional release. But not only is the story impactful, but the cinematography for this, I mean, it is just peaceful and beautiful. As part of their study, the couple is filming the birds in flight as they move in unison throughout the sky. And we get to watch these patterns that they're almost hypnotic, creating a calm and a peace within the story that really drew me in even more to the characters. So this one certainly has some moments that can make the hairs on your neck stand up, especially as the tensions mount between the couples. I mean, all that emotion spikes, and then it's accentuated by dark imagery or skittering sounds in the shadows. It's unsettling, but it's also really fun. This story was one of my favorites with the enveloping characters and a story that hits the mark on several different angles. Some of the best creepy stories are the ones that can punch you in the gut while making you cover your eyes. There's no sex or nudity, some profanity, and a little bit of violence. I give episode 7, The Viewing, 4 out of 5 couches, and episode 8, The Murmuring, 4.5 out of 5 couches. So what's been your favorite episode from the anthology? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.